There we go. So, hi everyone. My name's Taylor Battistella from Boomerang Labs, and big welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time today. And thanks to those of you who are the regulars that always attend our webinars. So, before we get into the webinar, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we all work and live today, extending our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. In my case, I'm in Melbourne and I'm working on the lands of the Wurundjeri people. So please take a moment to just write in the chat where you're dialing in from today. It's really great to see such a national audience on these calls. So today we're excited to explore how established innovators are engineering products for longevity, repair, modularity, and material recovery. We're joined by a great panel of innovators who are leading the way in this space. And I'm looking forward to diving into their experiences, insights, and the opportunities that they see ahead. So a little about us. We're Australia's first circular economy accelerator. We work with startups and innovators from the early stages of their business, where they're just working on an idea all the way through as they're looking to commercialize across all sectors and industries. So we're trying to really see how we can implement circular economy into the core of their businesses. So this is a little overview of how we see our programs. For us, the events are a really important aspect of Boomerang Labs. So events being like these webinars today, they're a really great way to build our community and how we keep people engaged and interested in the startup space in general across Australia. We don't only need the startups, but we also need the customers and the people like each of you out there today who will help drive that change. So that's it from me. But before we do get started, I just wanted to acknowledge that our upcoming webinar is on the screen now. I'll post a link to that webinar shortly in the chat, so you can RSVP if you're interested. But yeah, I'll stop the share. And Nathan, do you want to start us off by giving us a quick introduction to yourself before handing it off to Carl?
Oh, well, hi everybody. I'm Nathan Smith. I'm the General Manager of the Bower Reuse and Repair Centre. We're a not-for-profit environmental charity based in Sydney. And I'll pass over to you, Carl.
Cool. Thanks, Nathan. What I might do, I might start sharing my screen because part of my introduction is included in my presentation. So, hi everyone, my name is Carl Brosen. I'm an industrial designer based in Melbourne. I work across furniture, lighting and objects, and I work across two spheres. I work in my own practice where I work on bespoke experimental furniture using usually in single or limited runs. I use this space to push ideas around materials and circular design, also offering design consulting. And on the other side, I work at Tate. I lead the designer production development team, designing and developing commercial outdoor furniture. These high performance pieces for public and residential spaces. And yeah, both these streams are deeply rooted in circular principles for reuse, repair, disassembly, but are expressed in slightly different ways. So today we're talking about circular design. So actually, is it? Circular design considers a product's full life cycle, not just how it's made, but what happens to it after it's used. An example of bad design is your common toothbrush, which you can see on screen. So it's typically made through injection molding using two different plastics that both have different properties. Maybe one might be able to be recycled and the other can't, but because they've been molded together, they're impossible to take apart. So really you can't do anything with it. So every toothbrush that was ever made with this technique it still exists in landfills today all over the world. And both Tate and Carl Rosen Studio, we practice circular design, which enables repair, reuse, and disassembly. There is a lot to consider when designing a product for circularity, but today we'll just talk about these few points. And yeah, whether you're working at scale or one-off pieces, these principles are all really applicable and adaptable and powerful. So everything starts with material selection. At Carl Rosen Studio, I almost exclusively use stainless steel, really because it's durable, its strength, and its adaptability to harsh environments. You can use it by the sea or in poolside scenarios, and it won't deteriorate. And you don't need to coat it with anything as well. Like, it's just the raw material is really, really durable. You can also electropolish it, which is something I typically do with my studio work. And at Tate, aluminium is extensively used. It has much of the same corrosion resistance as stainless steel. However, it's lighter and infinitely recyclable. We source it from accredited suppliers to ensure that we have that the material content is at least 70% recycled aluminium. So you can purchase aluminium from different suppliers, and they have varying degrees of recyclability, but there are certain ones that you can get a certificate to say that this is, recycled. And the third option, mild steel, is slightly more inferior to stainless steel and aluminium. However, with the appropriate coating, it does greatly improve its durability and becomes a little bit more of a cost-effective option. So stainless steel and aluminium, at the moment, they're about the same in price, whereas aluminium and stainless steel are quite similar on price. Mild steel is maybe about a third or 3/4 of that price. So during the design process, we consider how the product is actually manufactured. In the industry, we call it design for manufacture. There are many different techniques, how to put the product together. But yeah, the big focus is on how it can be assembled. Think about like your IKEA furniture, like you buy it packed, you can screw it all together, but you'd screw it all together. But using that idea, if you push that just a little bit further, you can actually design it for disassembly as well. So sometimes some people might have experienced and they've moved house, they've tried to take apart their IKEA furniture, and they maybe can't put it back together again properly. So it's just a little bit more thinking. And part of the enabler with that is using clever use of fasteners, really, standardizing those components, looking at snap fit designs, and maybe even looking at what sort of tools you can use to take these components apart and together again. Like, are they accessible to the customer, or is it just very exclusive in a particular field? So design for manufacture, some examples of how that disassembly works in practice. So first up, there's the Loom Lounge, which I've designed for Carl Rosen Studio. So it's a 3-seater lounge constructed entirely from off-cut materials. There's this massive mesh structure that it's got textile parts that are threaded, like woven through. So it acts as your cushioning. No need to use any foam, but if you do spill a drink, for example, on it, you can just remove the textiles in that affected area, wash them, and put them right back. So you don't need to take the entire cover off or anything like that in comparison to a more traditional type of sofa. And at Tate, the example I've used is the Billy collection, which includes a mixture of tables and chairs, which all fundamentally have the same construction. They all use fasteners to secure different materials together. And you can see on the image, the chair is made, there's a frame, there's a seat and a back, and they're all indicated by a different color, and they are a different material altogether. So really good for shipping, or you can take it down flat packed almost. But if any of those parts are damaged, you can take just that part off and have it replaced or repaired. Now, moving into more some of the processes that really enable these certain disassembling and reuse. So first up, stud welding was really prevalent within the Billy collection. So it's a technique that you use to weld a threaded nut or fastener of some sort onto a piece of metal. And it does it in a matter of seconds, really. So it's really efficient and makes it really easy for you to attach other materials to the base material. Second part to this, sandblasting. This is a really useful technique in both, in reuse actually. So what this does, it's like an industrial sandpaper type thing. So it removes off all the exterior material and leaves a really clean, sort of almost a little bit rough finish. But it removes corrosion, anything like that. So any products that have been out in the elements that need a little bit of touch up, they usually come through with sandblasting. And final process of that is powder coating. So it's a slightly different form to just spray painting, where it uses powder, and this electrically charged powder gets applied to your metal frame, and it just sticks really, really strong. And after which it gets baked on and makes a really good seal around the whole product. So there's no risk of any moisture seeping into the substrate. So a really good example of how Tate has used these principles in the real world is the refurbishment project for the QT rooftop. So we had a client who had purchased some Tate furniture, and it lasted over 7 years, and they were considering throwing them out because they had deteriorated somewhat. But we stepped in and said, well, no, we can actually fix this for you. So we took their product back, refurbished it, all for a third of the cost of what a new product would have been. Gave them a new textiles as well. Like you can see on the before photo, there's some puckering, and the timber sort of deteriorated there. And in the after photo, there's we've replaced it with a more durable outdoor vinyl, so it'll last for a lot longer. So yeah, all looking new, and yeah, it's really a win-win-win for all of us. Like it's environmental, financial, and brand value. Like really, really good outcome with that. And it's only one of many stories that Tate has got. And examples from my studio that does practice circular examples. So in particular, materials use, I try to use reclaimed wherever possible, so both metal and textiles. You can see in the first photo and the little light, I've both used end-of-life textiles that I've then processed, in particular on the light, into like a paper-like material. And then choosing stainless steel for its durability and recyclability. As I said earlier, like it's a really durable material that it's something that's not going to deteriorate anytime soon. And I've all electro-polished that those finishes. Don't use any glues or adhesives as well. That's something that makes it really difficult to take components apart. You really avoid using glues. So in my case, typically other craft techniques like knotting works really well to combine the textiles with the rest of the framework. And yeah, so hopefully you can see some ways in which circular designs can be embedded into the furniture industry. If you're interested in any of our services, either at our Brosnan Studio or Tate, or simply just want to have a chat about any of these topics, please feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Carl. Before we hand off to Nathan, I'm not sure if you have a view on the topic, but James has asked in the chat, do you foresee an end-of-life levy, like a container return scheme, or broader adjustment levy like the EU CBAM for durable items to pay for the disassembly? And then he's also asked, does design for disassembly matter if waste processors perfect automated shred and sort systems? So,
that's a good question. I think from what we've experienced, there would be some help to that, like actually having it written within policy. Like I think that would be really important. In terms of like industrial shredding to different materials, like I think there is a cost. There might be a cost benefit because still when you're assembling different parts, like one thing that's really valuable is like delivering a piece from A to B, and you do want to save costs there rather than shipping a whole component. So if you can flat pack in a way, that does help. So yeah.
Thanks for that.
Disassembly, yeah, it does matter a lot.
That's good. All right, Nathan, we'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Taylor. I will just start sharing my screen. Hopefully you can all see that. So one of the pitfalls of going second, I also talk about furniture, but I'm pretty confident that I don't contradict anything that Carl has just said. So hopefully that proves to be true. So as I said, I represent the Bauer, and our mission is simple, but powerful. And our mission is to keep household items out of landfill by promoting reuse and repair. So I'm going to come at this from a slightly different angle, from a kind of trying to reuse things that are destined for recycling or the waste or other waste streams. So we run a range of services, including an electrical repair shop, where we fix household appliances, and we teach DIY repair, and we also have the ability to safety test everything. We do the same thing for furniture repair, and we run repair and restoration workshops and help people upcycle, refinish items and breathe new life into old pieces. And we also dabble with bikes, where we offer both repairs and guided repair sessions so people can learn to maintain their own bikes. And the main thing that we do, though, is we have a collection and rehoming service in Sydney for unwanted furniture, white goods and appliances, which we collect from people's houses with our truck, and we redistribute to people who need them all over Sydney. So it really is the circular economy in action. And at the heart of all of this is the belief that most products can and should have a second, third, or fourth life, prolonging their descent into landfill. So, look at the history. How did we get to today's throwaway society? We didn't always live this way. Post-war was built on post-war society was built on mending. If something broke, you fixed it, or you knew someone who could. There were multiple repair shops on high streets, from things like cobblers and upholsterers to electrical stores, and even the local hardware store would offer repair services. Repair wasn't niche, it was normal. And because of scarcity, they had to make do. Then came planned obsolescence. This is a deliberate strategy by manufacturers to shorten product life cycles and to boost repeat sales. Probably the earliest case of it was 100 years ago, when the two major light bulb manufacturers got together because they had a problem that their light bulbs were lasting too long. And they started up a cartel in Geneva to solve the problem. They agreed to reduce the life of their light bulbs from an average of 2,500 hours to 1,000 hours and increase their prices. If members didn't meet the requirements, they were levied significant fines by the cartel. And then that was followed by the loss of repair literacy, which took just 2 generations from the post-war. So for me, I'm a Gen X, and my grandfather and father's generation were still repairing, but my generation less so. And at the Bauer, we see this. We have lots of people who come to teach for us because they're skilled tradespeople and craftsmen or women, and they just want to keep the craft alive because they see it dying around them. And it's something that's really, we're hoping will come back. In addition, schools have stopped teaching manual skills, products have become more complex, and they've been sealed shut. Add to this the rise of the plastics industry with cheap, moldable and disposable, and you witness the birth of today's throwaway society. Products aren't just designed to be hard to fix, they're designed to be irreparable. But change is underway, and the Bauer is proud to be part of that movement. We're seeing a global pushback. Communities, repairers, advocates, and innovators driving the right to repair movements, demanding that manufacturers make spare parts, manuals, and software accessible. This is a poster from iFixit.com, which is an American-based company, and they champion the provisioning of manuals and how-tos for an increasingly expensive range of products, including most mobile phones. The right to repair movement is also active here in Australia. One of their big success stories was a while ago now, but it was with the car industry. And they were successful preventing car manufacturers voiding warranties if motorists took their vehicles to get them serviced at dealerships not owned by that car company. And that was actually then enshrined into law. In Australia, though, there's no legislation specifically enshrining the right to repair. And that's despite the Productivity Commission recommendation to do so. Circular economy in action. The core principles within a circular economy revolve around minimizing waste and maximizing resource efficiency, promoting regeneration of natural systems. These principles are often summarized as the 3 Rs: reduce, reuse, and recycle. They guide product design and lifecycle management to create a closed loop system where materials are kept in use for as long as possible. At the Bauer, we see firsthand how design decisions shape the fate of products. So furniture that's modular or uses screws instead of glue lasts longer and is easier to repair. Solid wood or timber is a better thing for furniture to be made of than MDF or chipboard, because they become end-of-life materials that can't be repaired or recycled. Appliances with replaceable parts or common screws mean we can extend their life by years. And bikes are a great example of products that are designed with standardized components to reduce waste and cost of repair. The move to e-bikes, though, is challenging this status with sealed units and voided warranties if repaired by third parties. So poor design frustrates repair, but good design enables reuse, adaptability, and longevity. One of the exciting developments is the open repair data standard, which the Bauer is embracing. This helps target which products fail, how often they're fixed, which brand made it, and what's stopping the repair. And it gives an evidence-based database to influence better design and policy. We want to tell manufacturers, design for repair and you design for resilience. So what does the data show us from the open repair standard? We can see here, this is data from the UK, from an organisation called Restart. And you can see a lot of vacuum cleaners, lamps and power tools are brought in. They're the sort of the highest frequency items. And they have really good success on generally older technology products. So they're good lamps, sewing machines, hair dryers, musical instruments. 60 to 70% are repaired successfully. And importantly, very poor, low success rates on most modern digital appliances. So tablets, flat screen TVs and monitors and printers. So if you look at, for example, there they've got flat screens, 31% are possible to be repaired. That's probably just the flat screens that need a new power cable or a new transformer substituted in for them. These items are all being built not to be repaired. Another move we've seen is this move to zero waste goals. So New South Wales and other jurisdictions are adopting zero waste targets. But these targets mean little unless products are repairable by design. You can't divert to reuse what you can't fix. And to date, the main focus of zero waste has been on recycling. At the Bauer, we've saved over 126,000 kilos of furniture and appliances from landfill this year alone. And those items have been repaired, restored, and rehomed. Imagine how much more we could do if every product was made to be disassembled, serviced, and repaired. So in conclusion, what do we need? To move forward, we need policy that enforces design for repair, investment in community repair infrastructure, education to rebuild this repair literacy that we've lost, consumer pressure on manufacturers, and most of all, a shift in design culture, one that values durability, modularity, and repairability as the standard, not the exception. At the Bauer, we believe in a world where nothing is wasted, and design is the first step in that journey. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Nathan. Great stuff. Just got a few questions coming through in the chat. I might rattle them off and then we'll open it to the floor to ask on speaker. So Nahal's first question was, how do we reverse the planned obsolescence phenomena?
Very good question. I mean, I honestly think that it's in the data. I mean, if you think about the greenwashing we see from some of these companies, I mean, Apple is a very good example, where on the one hand, it has sustainability policies, and on the other hand, it has a product life cycle that's getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and actively pushing people to change their devices every 2 to 3 years. I think there has been some move there. The EU have been very good at forcing repair. France has been leading the way a lot. But I think it's the data and which gives politicians the numbers they need to be able to push back on the manufacturers.
And then Stephen's asked, how can we make recycling more accessible? At present, there's very few accessible recycling places, as in other countries.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on recycling. We try to get to products before they get to the recycling streams, and we try to repair them and recover them and reuse them. So I'm probably not the right person to answer that question. There is a lot of money, certainly in the New South Wales EPA, still focused on local government and recycling schemes. And we have seen a few product stewardship things come through. The 10-cent recycling on drinks containers, for example, has been quite successful, and they take the money from that and they ring fence it and they put it into an innovation fund to support not-for-profits like us, but more so local councils in innovating and making a bigger slice of the pie from the waste stream go into the recycling and recovery path. So that's probably about all I know on that, I'm afraid.
And just the final one from Nahal, it was how can we get your work in repair and Bower to grow even bigger? What connections do you need?
Great question. We, as an organisation, are limited by geography and resources, and we are looking at how can we embrace the digital world that we're in now, and how can we expand our footprint digitally. So we're the connections we need at the moment are in software development and software engineering to help us do that. And we also actively help people who want to set up a Bower-esque model in other states and other suburbs where we're not present. So you can come to us and we can help with that as well.
Nice. All right. I've now opened up the floor. We can all see each other. There's a lot of faces missing. If you want to turn your cameras on, feel free to ask some questions directly to Nathan and Carl. And if there's answers like Nathan couldn't give, if someone else has the answer, feel free to share your thoughts. Nothing? All right, I might start off with one then. How, Nathan and Carl, do you think we can make repairability a bit more aspirational rather than just functional or necessary?
I think that's a good question. I think it is happening with, there's a trend towards thrifting at the moment that we're seeing, which is very prevalent in clothing and textiles and op shops. But we're also seeing it in more of our sphere, which is more furniture and upcycling and that side of things. So I think there is some of it is being nurtured there, which is really good. And it's kind of a pushback against the fast fashion industry. And we're seeing it in the younger generations coming through now.
Yeah, similarly in my sphere, that's where I have most of that touch point is more that thrifting side of things or secondhand with furniture. But also within design, like it's something that we always ask as well when we're working on new products. Like how is this product going to be reused in the next 10 years? Like what are those things? So at the moment, it's making sort of engineering interventions so certain parts can come apart easily, staying away from glues again, that's the thing.
Yeah. Carl, on that, you can incur extra costs in doing this stuff, and if the client doesn't value it, are there enough clients who are willing to pay a premium? Am I overstating the fact that there's a premium? And how do you educate people to get them on board? I mean, being to disassemble is something that nobody thinks they're ever going to have to do with a piece of furniture until, of course, we all have to do it. And we, at the most baseline, swear at IKEA until we're blue in the face. But it's a real thing. But I don't know, do you find clients get it, or are you explaining it, and are they valuing it?
That's a brilliant question. And I often, one of the same. It's because where my studio and Tate is positioned, like we do like our clients, I guess the target market is a little bit more I guess, affluent, and it is people do pay a premium for that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a really tricky thing, because like we are making a difference, but to make an even bigger difference, the IKEAs and the Kmarts would need to be following the same footsteps for real change to happen. Because at the moment with manufacturing here, it's all quite it is quite tricky to bring that cost down. And the right education, some people do value, but potentially not enough.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's interesting for Nathan, because you do workshops, as I understand, like public workshops. So you're working at the other end with the wide public. Is there appetite for the education?
Yeah, there is. And it's quite widespread, and there's lots of different reasons why. So some of it is because people do actively want to continue the life of an object. Some of it is through social enterprise reasons, in terms of company and friendships and purpose. And some of it's from independence and wanting to just learn skills that they don't have. So yeah, there is big demand for workshops, things like upholstery, learning how to upholster things, learning basic carpentry, and home DIY. We see a big uptake in that. I think, I don't know how you get it mass. I mean, probably. There was that big. There's a guy on YouTube who was like a dad for the dad you've always wanted, and showed you all the skills that your actual dad didn't show you. And he was very successful. So perhaps that's the way forward. I mean, I think people are going to YouTube more than workshops these days to just try and work out how to fix something.
It's fascinating to me that there's this resistance from industry around repair and maintenance, when it actually seems like an incredible financial opportunity. Sure, it's great if I chuck my product in the bin every 2 years or 4 years or whatever, but it seems like there's a real opportunity to have a longer term relationship with my customers, and talk to them after 5 years about what colors are in and how I can modernize that outrageously comfortable couch. Is there a systemic problem in the way these industries work, that they're just resistant? I'm getting a bit philosophical here, but I'm just curious as to, will incumbent businesses learn to embrace these ideas, or will new companies have to come up and eat their lunch?
Oh,
sorry. I mean, do you see any existing companies that are transforming, that are learning to design products that have better life and repairability? Or are they new people like you, Carl, who are going, no, this is part of our philosophy?
I'm aware of Nokia. So Nokia came out of phoenixed out of the ashes, and I think they launched a range of phones last year, which were all where every single item on the phone was easily repairable. Most importantly, the battery, which is obviously the most consumable item. So I think they obviously did need to reinvent themselves. So that was an attempt at that. And I think there's also furniture companies. So there's the high end, and there's always been the high end, hasn't there, in furniture, where you buy something good, it lasts you a lifetime. The problem is when you're 20 years old, you can't afford to buy those things. And so you end up
when you're 70, yes.
That's right. And you end up
lifetime guarantee.
But I think there are examples of companies that are coming down in terms of the financial threshold that you have to do to engage with them in furniture.
Some of those companies that I do see, like they tend to shift their manufacture overseas. and it is very common practice. But I guess that's part of it as well. Like Australia has lost a lot of their manufacturing capability, and there's only so few places that do their own manufacture onshore. And if you pay everyone their award wage, the cost price of the product at the end is it's you almost can't get it below a certain point. In fact, we do quite a few exercises like that here at Tate, trying to get something as affordable as possible, but it's very difficult to not to get a product in that sort of affordability price range. You almost have to go overseas, which is disappointing.
It's interesting because it seems to me that companies just sell products. So the second they've sold it to you, it's off their books. The only potential is actually liability against the warranty on it. I wonder whether companies should actually continue to own their products for longer to get the benefits of making it more durable and things like that.
Or upgrading certain parts. Like I do know like product stewardship is quite a big thing. But again, it does exist not in high end sort of arenas again. So how do we change that into the masses? Like
it's whenever I ask people why they've upgraded their phone, it's because the battery's dead or they want a better camera, and that leaves 90% of the phone still completely valid. And things like that, I think, are going to start becoming more visible as we go along and questioning stuff like that. But it's getting the different sides of the market to come up at the same speed, isn't it? You're going to be bringing supply of more sustainable products and repairable products at the same time as demand comes online, which is difficult when incumbents are not really motivated. I don't mean to hold conversation. Taylor, do you want to throw it open?
Yeah, that's good, Piers. We've got a few questions in the chat from James. James, do you want to ask away?
James?
Can you hear us?
Sorry, I was just typing my message saying I was going to have to scoot. I missed what you said, Piers.
Also, we were asking if maybe before you scoot, if you could just enunciate your question to Carl and Nathan.
Sure. So
and then you can go.
Thank you. Well, firstly, thank you both for a very interesting chat. And as a UK chartered mechanical engineer who studied design for manufacture assembly and disassembly back in the 2000s, with the end of life vehicle directive coming in, it's great to see this stuff actually kind of getting to the point where we know that we need it and there's a movement behind it. So well done. Thank you. I found it very interesting indeed. I guess what I was just curious about was, given that a lot of the stuff that we're sort of tangoing in the tech space is the use of software to replace skill. I guess what I'm puzzled around is there a repair LLM in the works? Is there a way of taking expertise and scaling it out to mass adoption in an easy way? If not, that feels like a fairly achievable project for someone very skilled in software, which I am not. I'm just curious if you've seen that happening. Something to guide me through the disassembly of my iPhone and what components go where, and
Well, I think iFixit is not an LLM, but it is a very resource-rich database that's going along the path you're talking about, James, and that would be a logical next step for them. Get into the world of AI.
Okay,
I'm not aware of anything though.
Well, the second one to follow that through is just this idea that for me as a consumer, who is the authority to follow who rates these things, right? So we have Energy Star ratings on things. We have Water Star ratings, I think, if I remember, on some appliances, which is great. And total cost of ownership as I said, like I come from a world where remanufacturing is completely normal. Maintenance, repair, and overhaul organizations exist to take aircraft and stretch their lives out beyond 60, 70 years. Ships, it's even longer in some cases, which is awesome. Where is the authority that tells me that I've got a highly repairable, long-lived item with nice off-the-shelf spares that I can purchase from a, from market versus something that's bespoke and integrated and molded together that I can't take apart, and if I could, I couldn't fix it.
Yeah, it's not there, is it? It should be.
Yeah.
So no one's doing this, not even which safety labs or anything like that? Because I would think there are some people spending big money in local government and national governments and many other governments who would care a lot that they are wasting money that could be stretched, and they could use their procurement dollars to go to things that could be taken apart. So we sit in my company, we sit a long way south of this. We sit down at the resource, carbon avoidance, decarbonisation, waste to landfill elimination, all this kind of stuff. So really at the point where things are being taken apart or they really are waste resource stream. But up at the integrated item end of the spectrum, some of these folks, they're spending big money, and we're quietly nudging them all very hard to go to EVs. But part of the vehicle stuff has been taken care of because that EU directive on end of life vehicle directive that you have to be able to take them apart. But a purchaser cares a lot when they switch from a petrol to an EV that they're getting the maintenance and repair saving.
Yeah.
Because EVs are less maintenance than an internal combustion. So I'm just curious that hasn't evolved or that doesn't exist.
I think your suggestion, I mean, you mentioned which, the equivalent in Australia is choice. But those consumer advocate bodies that rate products across all categories would be a good place for a repairability score or expected product life.
Could be a little last comment for me. I suppose it's just an observation. It might be easier than you might think because depending on the retailer, online commerce in particular. So when I'm buying my Lego online, there's really only a few places I go to buy it.
Yeah.
And I think most of the dollars flow through actually top 10 websites to buy things, especially electronics. And they would be the usual suspects. You could probably guess who they are. And so for them to have a filter saying highly repairable items only, this is not. That's a relatively easy filter to integrate onto a dashboard if they have the information.
Yeah.
So anyway, fascinating topic, folks, and thank you. I really thought it was a very interesting conversation. I apologize I have to go early, and thank you again, Boomerang Labs. Another awesome talk. So see you guys.
Cheers, James.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, James. Do we have any final questions or parting messages from the panelists? No? All right. Thanks so much, Nathan and Carl, for joining us today. It was a really great, informative discussion and great work with the questions. Thanks for all those questions as well, Piers. And with that, I'll end the session and we'll send out the recording afterwards, and feel free to reach out if you've got any further questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Taylor. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Taylor. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.